Welcome to the Uncommon Truth today. Bob and I are joined with our guest host, Harvey Trauter from Langley, BC, Canada. Harvey is presently a coach, mentor, and consultant to business leaders seeking to be more effective as leaders and helping them lead authentically. So thank you for joining us on today's journey to find the uncommon truth about purpose and planning. Brian Tracy says that a clear vision defined by a definite plan gives you a tremendous feeling of confidence and personal power. A good book that I've read says that we need to give careful thought to the paths for our feet and be steadfast in all our ways. So it's clear that planning is an important part of our life. But ultimately, to do a plan, we need to understand our purpose. So gentlemen, Harvey, Bob, thanks for joining me today as we seek to find the uncommon truth about purpose and planning. So why don't we just jump right in and start with our first question. How important do you think knowing our purpose and planning our actions are to success? Harvey, why don't you lead us off?
Hey, well, great to be with you guys, and look forward to coming on many more times. There's my invitation to myself. When it comes to planning and purpose, there's times that people walk around with no sense of purpose, as if I'm just here putting myself in taking up space and doing time and trying to do my best. And when it comes to, and I believe that we have a creator, and God has put in our hearts and desires, our hearts, certain desires for what He's intending for us to do. And so understanding and grappling with and looking for and discovering and trying to find purpose is I think absolutely critical. And it's not something you grab a hold of and run with. It's something you keep discovering over and over and follow almost like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that statement. One of my favorite verses that I actually use quite a bit for my own encouragement, and as I'm working through life's challenges sometimes, is in Jeremiah. God talks about for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. So all of us in this journey of finding our purpose, because one thing consistent about life is change. And just because we have a purpose today doesn't mean that purpose isn't going to change. It's almost mandated, because as we grow, we change, which opens up doors and opportunity to walk through. So what purpose gives us is something to plan around. And I'm big, and you've heard me say it many times, Harvey and Bob, is that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It was said by, who was it again? I think it was Benjamin Franklin, that if you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. So how important do you really feel being clear on what you want to accomplish, that purpose, and actually documenting and setting out a plan is in life?
We were talking about purpose and planning, gentlemen. Exciting topics. Thank you very much. Harvey, I really like what you said about sometimes you're just going day to day. You're just trying to deal with the situation at hand. There's certain stages in life we all go through, the seasons of life. And I remember, I have 3 children. I know those days were massively busy. And it's so important to have that plan, that you know what you're going to be doing for that day. You know what you're going to be doing for that week. You know what as Covey would say, the important goals are versus the urgent goals, right? Urgent is right in your face. You got to move right now. And then the important stuff gets pushed off 1 week, a month, a year, 2 years, 10 years go by, Harvey. Look at me. 10 years have gone by. Yeah. And still the important stuff isn't dealt with. So I'm really excited to talk to you about this. It seems to me also that I work a lot with organizations and businesses Most of them have strategic plans in place, business plans in place, maybe not currently, but they've done it at least at one time. So they would have things like mission, vision, and values. And this is accepted in the business world. It's like you can't have a business today without actually having a written mission, vision, and values. And I have personally a mission, written vision, written values. So I've taken those lessons from organizations and companies and moved that into my life, and that's been really helpful. I'd like to hear you, Harvey, because you work with organizations and people especially, how you found mission, vision, and values to be impactful for people.
Yeah, that's fascinating, Bob, because we have these. Any organizations generally have these written down, and then they have many times, and you found this. Then they have things that they're actually doing that differ somewhat from those written pieces, right? And so the values piece of how we're going to get to where we want to go is I think very critical. And sitting down with a group of people and hearing them interact and so forth and around in their journey, especially in the business, and saying, okay, guys, can I articulate to you what I'm hearing your actual values are, because it's coming out louder than your written ones. So I think it's absolutely critical to get it down, because that. Have you ever had this? I use this analogy often. You ever had it when we were younger and they had these? It's like a merry-go-round. You'd push somebody around the playground in a circle and everybody would hang on. You remember those? It's not like a merry-go-round, but similar. And the faster you push it, the more the centrifugal forces would be to throw you off of it, right? So the more successful you are at spinning this thing, the harder it is to hold on to those things that you need to be doing to survive. And so as the business, your life, everything starts getting complicated, it starts spinning. And like you said, Bob, if you don't have sort of that marker of what I need to hold on to, you're going to get spun off. And it's great fun seeing somebody fly off one of those things. But in life, that's a crisis. That's a terrible thing. So having them down, having them in front of you, reading them, thinking about them, staying in focus, those are the ones that see some great success in actually moving the ball ahead to what their purpose is.
I think that what you've described to me is being able to have that beacon, that like a lighthouse, as we get going through life, it gets busy, especially if you're having any success, or on a slide down through some poor decisions as well. But having that beacon that you can measure things against allows you to make more effective decisions. So what I've learned and I've observed in watching successful people is that them having that true north, that beacon that they know I'm moving towards that point, in times of struggle, in times of triumph, when lots of things and opportunity are coming, if you're not measuring up those things to your purpose, to that beacon that you're heading towards, for sure, you will make decisions that maybe, or choices that maybe take you off or away from it in the whole busyness of that. So I really like that point, that this is a critical success factor for us, right? And that is an uncommon truth, that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So what do you think is a good process then for us to help define our purpose? How do we find that?
Heath, I really like your analogy about the beacon, right? I like the true north, moving true north. For me, there's not just one beacon. So part of the process is identifying the beacons. So there's many beacons in a person's life. So as an example, and if you're running a business and you're going to be planning for the success of your business, you want to have financial beacons, you want to have human resource beacons, you want to have a niche beacon, you want to have marketing beacons, sales beacons, right? So there's all the pieces of the business. They all have a beacon or beacons, right? In your own personal life, in my life, I've got a relationship beacon, I've got a spouse beacon, I've got children beacons, I've got the 7, 8 major areas of life. I actually got to have a beacon for adventure too. So am I getting enough adventure in my life? I put that in. It's because that's part of my heart's desires, is to have an adventureful life, right? So I want to, and what I want to do is, I think part of the role is, because we have limited time each and every day, that we want to have the plan is to strategically decide what you're going to do that day to hit as many beacons as you can, or maybe not as many, Harvey, but the important beacons that day. So one of the important beacons for me is part of my mission is to actually to build my relationships with God. Take action today to build my relationship with God. An action. I keep it very low standard for me, Harvey. Just take one action. But I will. That's my mission. And so part of my plan is to do something every day that builds that relationship. Next most important one would probably be myself. I want to do something for myself every day, so I'm strong for my family. I'm strong for my wife. So I have beacons there. How to eat, exercise, friendships, business goals, right? So I want to be strong there, but I don't want to be selfish too, because I've got kids and I've got a wife. So I want to do those things as well. So for me, Heath and Harvey, it's identifying the beacons that you're going to do. Use your time as strategically as possible. You only have X number of hours in a day, and things keep turning over for importance. Sometimes it's sales that's most important, but sometimes it's your youngest child who's living in Toronto, University of Toronto, and you haven't talked to in a week, right? So those are my thoughts.
Harvey, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's really good. And it takes a while to build a house or a skyscraper. And so it's moving it ahead one step at a time. And sometimes it's one action, like Bob was saying, just taking that one action today. But over 30 days, that's likely 30 actions, and over a month, 31, or 7 actions, and then 31, and so forth, just moving it forward. And you go like, wow, if over the course of 6 months, I've been able to take that one action consistently, it's going to make a significant impact in what I'm hoping to build and keep building. So it's not going to happen in just one day, but it's some sense of trying to be consistent. And maybe it's not every day, maybe it's every 3 days or once a week, that particular beacon that you want to be moving ahead. But it's the attention of where I want to go. I find it interesting. You have a picture there of being on top of a mountain, and I don't think you are on top of that mountain, Heath. It's just an illusion. I think it's an illusion somehow. But I was listening to a speaker talk about climbing mountains, and of course, the higher you get, the less oxygen. And he said, at that point, your steps have to be very, very short steps. And it's very easy, because of your lack of oxygen, to realize what am we doing up here anyway? What's going on? And so but just keep taking those little steps, and learning to live sometimes with in a mountaintop experience with low oxygen, where, okay, my goal today is to get there. That doesn't seem big, but in this lack of oxygen experience, critical, absolutely critical. So then celebrate that you have moved it ahead 100 yards or 5 kilometers.
And just to build on that thought, Howard, before I lose it, I think that's a great thought, those little steps. But that's what a plan does, is it makes sure you're going in the right direction. If you're taking a whole bunch of little steps in the wrong direction, that's often because you're not working your plan. So in my head, that's what it's all. That's what the plan's all about. Is the plan is to go here with your sales. The plan is to go here with your relationship with your wife, right? You got to have that longer term vision, what you want it to be, the high standard you want it to be at, and then then you start walking, right?
Yeah.
You know, Bob and I have a program that we're just finalizing and getting ready to launch called The Ideal Form of Life. And what you both have just really talked around is defining that form of life that you want. Well, form is the shape. That's what a form is. It's a shape or the configuration of something. And form is an acronym. It actually stands for the chunks of our life. And we've broken it down into 4. Family and friends, which is your relationships. OS is your occupation, your work and your wealth. R is your recreation, your health and wellness. And M is your motivation, your education, inspiration, the things that kind of give you that zest or, for those moments that you might be even struggling through, that the motivation. So I think what you both defined is really being clear on what are the form of life key or primary outcomes that need to be achieved by them.